Well, that was London at 3 o'clock this morning with no way of getting home. No, I jest. This morning has been a very bitty morning, but an interesting one, I think. Richard Barton came in on his way to do some work at the court, I think in Hove today. And he was good enough to give me an hour or half an hour of his time. And we chatted about the merits of using the voice versus the written word. And it was a nice, gentle chat to get the morning off to a good start. I then gave the news headlines, and this morning it didn't take long because there was only one. Sorry, I've got messages coming left, right, and centre. So you have to forgive me if I keep disappearing for a moment because it's been that sort of morning. Then I gave a brief summary of the news because the news headlines are just one. Well, there are two actually, and I'll go over the second in a moment. But we actually are facing something of a crisis in the Mediterranean, and Rhodes has gone up in flames to the point where people are only escaping from the conflagrations at the risk of their lives, and that the British government is sending out to aircraft to rescue several thousands of holidaymakers who have been caught in one of the worst fires ever on record in the Mediterranean countries. And the other item on the front page, I'll go over with you in a minute because it's an interesting one. But it meant that the time crept by, and then we are having a very serious look at what's happening locally with the council and its activities, because there's something that seems not quite right. And Stuart Dolby, who is an expert on some of these things and has good contacts, he came in and we sat and we chatted about what was a problem and how we were going to actually try to keep an eye on it for you, really, the taxpayer. It's the one thing that we do not want is money misspent, and some of it seems a very peculiar way of spending extra money that came from increased council tax. And the increase in council tax was something like the third highest in the country. Also, we have to go to the council, and that takes time, to ask. We can't see any accounts online, and maybe they're there, but we just don't know where to find them. So before we actually start to be hell raisers, we discussed going to the council to ask how we can see these accounts to make sure that we are not crying wolf. But it's our job to cry. And if they don't actually come back and say, no, we're wrong, or can we have a right of reply, we shall assume that we're right and that we shall carry on with our theme of we don't seem to have filed any accounts. So it was a morning, a bitty morning, and it wasn't that we weren't working hard. We were, but it made getting back on air, but also the whole system is really up the smoke this morning, and To some extent, I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by messages coming in. To some extent, I've chosen to just make it a gentle morning this morning, particularly since Suzanne Mouchot is not available this morning from New York. But I think that just for the remaining 15 minutes, I just did think that it was important enough for us to look at the Daily Mail's front page, which does not concentrate on the fires in Rhodes. It has an interview with Jeremy Hunt, who describes his fight with cancer, a disease that killed his parents and has now struck his brother. And he reveals how his family has been devastated by cancer and urges Britain to lead the global fight against the disease. I think we're not doing too badly, and this television station has supported Action Cancer through publicizing its shop in the town at the bottom of the hill, having a portrait painted, and paying for it, I may say, of me, and the proceeds going to Action Cancer, and doing a series of programs all about Action Cancer. And so we're with Jeremy Hunt, and we're trying to do a little bit about it. It's always a little bit that we do. But good morning. We have some people. Hello. Are you visiting?
Oh no, we're just staying. We're staying here. We're looking around the room.
Right. Do you like the hotel?
Yes.
It's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do be careful what you say because you're live on television.
All right.
But it is. We're very proud that we actually broadcast from here because this is where Tom Paine devised the rights of man. He also lost us the colonies, but we won't say too much about that. But it's a lovely old hotel.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Are you staying here?
Yes.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, very much.
They have a wonderful front of house staff, and they look after me every morning. I'm in here at 7:30 every morning to broadcast, and they look after me with bringing me coffee and patting me on the head, making sure that I'm all right. Yes, and we deliberately have it here so that we can talk to people like you who just pass through.
Oh,
right.
So there you are.
Oh, I'm really, because I was looking at like the Tudor times. And I was admiring this.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, now this was actually built by a family called the Pelhams in about 1500 or so. Yeah. And some people think that the TP on the fireplace there is Tom Paine, but in fact it's Thomas Pelham, the man who built it.
Oh, so you know everything about the history.
Well, I know a little bit. Yeah.
Oh.
We made a documentary which you might like to try and find on online called The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town. Tells you all about Lewis.
Thank you. The bloody past.
The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town. Yeah.
Nice.
It's an 8-parter. It's free on the YouTube and so on.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might fill you in a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good to meet you. Really.
Well, lovely to meet you, and thank you for chatting to me.
Okay. Have a good broadcast.
Thank you.
Bye.
There we are. There's a nice thing that happened in these mornings. But back to cancer, and we do our bit. Of course, everybody only can do a small bit, but in doing a small bit, if enough of us do a small bit, it becomes a large bit, and we will beat this dreadful disease. But anyway, Jeremy Hunt's family has got it, and he gave this interview, and the Mail thought that it was important enough to run on its front page. And I have to say that I have a tendency to think that that's absolutely right. Now, I thought just in these last few minutes, because there is no other news on the front pages except for this interview with Jeremy Hunt, and except that the fires raging in Rhodes, that we might just look at one or two of the other stories on the inside. One is the Labour Party grandee has admitted that he jumped the gun when a fake film about Boris saying that he wasn't ill at all during COVID has this particular documentary says that he wasn't ill at all, and it's obviously patently a fake one. So the Labour grandee, giving his due, has said, "I'm sorry that I actually subscribed to this movie, but I take it all back." Actually, Des Lynam, whom some of you will remember, and who actually lived in Brighton, has warned Gary Lineker to get on with the football and avoid controversial topics outside the game. The ex-England striker brushed off the criticism from his match of the day predecessor because, for some reason, he wants to get involved in all sorts of things for which he's patently not qualified, and frankly, his ego is so out of control that when he actually opens his mouth, it makes no contribution to anything. Lineker had to step back from presenting the flagship show earlier this year until he and the BBC reached an agreed and clear position on his use of social media. His tweets have attracted controversy while he's been BBC's highest paid on-air talent for the 6th consecutive year. He's the only star to earn more than £1 million in the year 2022-23, according to the corporation's annual report. Lynam, who's now 80, told BBC Radio's Force Broadcasting, "I like him as a chap. I like him as a broadcaster, but I think there are some areas that he should stay out of. For example, the last World Cup was in Qatar, and he went very, very strongly about the limitations of society in Qatar. And he's right, there are, but he's not the person to say it. Get on with the football." Lineker later tweeted, "Des is entitled to his opinion, as of course am I." At last year's World Cup, he led criticism of Foreign Secretary James Cleverly for suggesting LGBT fans be respectful of the host nation. In March, he was taken off air after comparing the government's language on asylum seekers to 1930s Germany. Yeah. Well, yes, you're quite right. He is entitled to his main view, but he has to be careful who actually passes those views on. BBC Sports isn't, I suggest, the venue. A coroner has warned over the ease of hiring e-scooters after a child is killed using one. He says it's easy to use an e-scooter illegally. And the death of a 12-year-old who was knocked off one on his way to school and was crushed by a bus is representative of what can happen. Let's see. The next story is about some movies, and I'm sorry I can't get excited about those. It's a personal view, and it's interesting to some people, I guess. But right now, it's the one that's close to my heart, and I don't think it goes anywhere near far enough. Is the banks will be hauled in front of ministers after the Farage storm. More high-profile accounts could close under the new law, banks could close more high-profile accounts under legislation to tackle economic crime and protest national security. An expert has warned the use of artificial intelligence and sensitivity around fraud would see prominent customers having their accounts closed without warning or explanation. And Nigel Farage revealed last week that his account was shut down after private bank Coutts found his views did not align with their own values. Under laws to be enforced after summer recess, the Treasury said it would compel banks to explain and delay any decision to close an account. But experts have suggested the law could see anyone with adverse press around them swiftly debanked without the need for a human to scrutinize and sign off the findings. Mr. Asher warned the government's new economic crime and corporate transparency bill may make the problem worse. He said the A1 AI in use is not perfect, so the banks are going to be unlikely to allow staff to use discretion to override a negative result from the screenings or to remove fraud markers where they have already been loaded. Now, that sounds to me like a cop-out. There's no reason why the banks can't they're fast enough to put these things in place so that they can close branches and shut down ATMs. They should be just as equally fast to change all their algorithms and logarithms and indexisms and anything else. They can do it. They've shown that they can do it, so they should do it. That is no excuse whatsoever. The banks are out of control, not least of which is whether you like him or not, Elon Musk said that we shouldn't be afraid of AI, artificial intelligence, because we are already being run by computers. And that is the truth. We are already being run by computers, if you just think about it. When did you last actually see a bank manager? You may have seen somebody in the bank. They sit with you with a nice smile on their face and pretend that they know what they're doing. But what they do is they tap in something that goes to a main computer to see whether you can have an overdraft or whether you can have a loan or whatever. It's all nonsense, all absolute nonsense. This attempt by the government to try and curb the excesses of the banks is a right and proper move. And so everybody should get behind it. Everybody. Because otherwise we are going to be in one hell of a mess where the predictions that the computers are running our lives and not people. In other words, humankind gives up the right to its own destiny is going to come much, much quicker. Perhaps Elon Musk is right. Perhaps it's already here. But it's going to come much quicker than we think. Right? The fires in Rhodes, which is giving many of the environmentalists room to say, there, you see, we got it all wrong and this is what's happening and so on and so forth. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We have to be very careful that Mother Nature isn't actually hitting back at us. She does that from time to time, and she did that with COVID. We think, oh well, nature doesn't operate like that. I have a very, very distinct feeling that nature does. Okay, you may not believe in God, you may not believe in this, you may not believe in that. But there are things which we don't understand. And one of them is the way that nature has a habit of slapping us very hard. It's slapping us now to take notice of what's happening. The trouble is that when somebody decides to slap hard, is the people rise up and say, no, you can't do that because that's going to inconvenience me. That's going to affect me. And so the people who would change things have to back down. Well, those are the sort of things that are on the inside of the newspapers this morning. The Mail is making a big thing of Jeremy Hunt's cancer thing. I hope that it's nothing unforeseen in it. I hope that it's because he indeed has decided to come clean about his family to make sure that there is a new awareness, a new emergence of worry and concern about cancer and what it does. Well, perhaps the last thing is that the first of the continental votes has shown that there is a move to the right from left-wing policies. and Spain has voted to oust the socialist leader amid a surge towards a right-wing popular party. Not quite the landslide that people predicted, but nonetheless a trend which is being seen right across the European continent. And it looks as if, as usual, we will be swimming in the opposite direction, because at the moment nobody is giving much a chance to the Tories to retain power at the next election. Although it wasn't clean cut on the weekend or towards the end of last week, because Boris Johnson's old seat remained in Conservative hands. 2 went to Labour, or the Dems, and 1 went back to the Tories, or stayed with the Tories. That was a turn up for the books. Just shows what gets people thinking. All the things that are happening at the moment: cost of living, inflation, energy prices, shop prices, you name it. All those things have conspired to work against, obviously, the party in power, whether it's right, left, or in between. And I think inflation has decreased. It keeps on going down, and things improve in the shops. Perhaps we'll have a decent fight at the next election. What we don't want to see is what happened last time, and that is there's so big a majority for the Conservatives that we didn't have good governance, because the opposition was so weak it couldn't actually stand up to the huge number of Tories ready to put things in place, simply because of overwhelming numbers. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. We will be back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be back in touch with things. That things will be much better. We'll see. Till tomorrow. Toodle, 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 pip, cheerio.